And so as we go through these deep understandings, there's this awe that comes forth in the beginning. Yes. No matter what age you're at, whether you're a child or a senior, as you begin to exploring these, there's this great awe, and that awe brings a lot of energy with it. But in time, the understanding becomes refined, and it calms down, and it shifts from accumulating knowledge to you actually applying this knowledge into your life, which then becomes wisdom. You can't have wisdom without the application of knowledge. And so this is where the whole function comes in to understanding, is that as I'm studying these things, am I studying it or am I living it? This is where the problem came. When I was in university, I was moved forth into year 4 metaphysics. And in year 1 philosophy, I was invited to a symposium by my professor, where all of these other professors from North America came together. I felt very nervous and very out of place because I was a year 1 student. They were professors. But I got right in there and began debating with them. And my professor saw this, and he could see where I was coming from with all of this. So he got me in touch with the metaphysics professor there, and he and I actually became friends. We talked a lot on the phone and all of this. And one day, he turns to me and he finally says, it turned into an argument first. We were talking about something about relativity, and I was talking about a higher function of conscious energy. And he turns around and he got really angry with me, and he goes, "Donnelly, the hell do you know? You're what, 26, 27 years old, and I'm 65. What could you possibly tell me? Really, what could you possibly tell me that I don't already know?" And I snapped. I told him to F himself. I was like, "Excuse me? How dare you say that?" I said, Einstein was 27 years old when he wrote the special theory of relativity. How much of it do you understand at 65 years old? And he went really quiet for about a minute. And then he comes back and he's like, "Donnelly, I owe you an apology. That makes complete sense." And I was like, "Well, thank you." So he wanted to have a talk. So next time I was in class, he kind of took me aside and he said, "What are you doing with this?" I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing with this?" He said, "What do you want to do with this? Why are you here in the university?" And I said, "Well, because I want to teach it." "Where?" "In a university." No, that's not going to happen. You need to leave university." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because, honestly, you're not going to be liked. You're not going to be liked by faculty. The politics in this university, or in any university, will not allow it." And I said, "Well, why is that?" And he said, "Well, simply, because you do, and we talk." And I really valued that honesty. Yeah. You know, he said, "We read it from books, we don't even live it." And I admit, I saw this all the way through. From day one, I saw that these people were running their mouth of things that they didn't understand because they didn't do it themselves. That would be like me reading a book on mechanics, reading 100 books on mechanics and teaching classes, but we never actually go to the engine and work on it. You know, it doesn't make sense. So that's when I began to realize, he's right, I need to get out of here. But where do I go? So he suggested that I go seek out Fritjof Capra. So I went to the library, got all of his books, read all of his books, stayed awake, I don't know how much, debating in my mind, and then eventually I went down to California to the Esalen Institute and studied under him. It was only a week, but it was like a very intensive week on the web of life. Now, he also wrote the book called The Tao of Physics, and I related with this book completely. And the Tao of Physics is the parallels between Eastern mysticism and high-energy physics. The proof that he was bringing forth was that these mystics already knew about these states. They already knew about high-energy physics. They already knew about the atomic state. Even in Greek philosophy, Democritus talked about the atoms and, and all of this. Now, his perception of atoms weren't correct at the time, but he knew that there were different levels of vibration, that there were different integrations of energy that we can't see, feel, or touch, but they exist. I had a belief once that maybe he fell asleep under the stars, and as he closed his eyes, it began moving, and he saw little dots moving or something, and then maybe it spurred something. I don't know. So, after studying under Frijov, it really began to open my eyes to what I had already began to understand. By studying ancient Taoism, they always talked about our integration as nature. Not with nature, as nature. Mm-hmm. That we were nature and there was no separation at all. And I decided to take this further. Deep ecology. And by taking the understanding and the studies of deep ecology and applying them to the physical body, to the human body, or any body, mm-hmm. we began to see that it is an ecosystem. Now this brings forth an amazing template of understanding that we can use. When we look at the earth and its patterns, we see that we are a hologram of the earth. We are the earth. I am the earth thinking right now. I am the earth talking right now. I'm not from the earth. When I die, I don't go back into the earth. I am the earth. Mm-hmm. No separation. So through this, I began to get, obviously, a much deeper understanding of health, of how the body works, how its energy functions. I'd already lately started studying acupuncture on my own. I don't know if that's good, but I had a lot of friends who were willing to be guinea pigs, luckily. And I was already doing Qigong and yoga by this point, and, and a lot of that study. But it wasn't enough, so I moved to China. And I was teaching Qigong in China, and I was doing a practice in a park for myself, and my teacher there saw me. It wasn't my teacher yet. He saw me doing a practice. So he sent his student over to come and talk to me, and so he took me out for dessert, and he talked to me about Master Fang, and the next day I went back to meet Master Fang, and I started studying under him. And that's when I really started to get a much deeper teaching mm-hmm. of the energy of the mind, the energy of the acumeridians, of the whole thing. I see them as rivers and creeks, and when you study ecology, not just nature, but the actual breakdown of ecology, how do these ecosystems work? You see the same thing in the human body. I love that. And when you bring them together, we have a new angle on health. This is a system of understanding that needs to be brought into school systems. It needs to be brought into an educational system. In China, they're already starting to work that way in some angles. In some ways, there's resistance, of course, because Western medicine is still dominating there right now. And Western medicine is dominating the world right now. I have a problem. We live in Canada. It's a multicultural country, right? Mm. But where's our multicultural health system? We don't have one. Mm. Doesn't even exist. Mm. If you want any type of help outside of Western medicine, you have to pay for it. Mm-hmm. Our government will not at all help you in that way. Yet at the same time, the government is recognizing that there's benefit to this, and they're starting to see it. So maybe just give it some time, and they can learn to integrate the two.
Will you share with us about your thoughts about the way that people look at their health, the way that people look at medicine?
Oh, that's a very good, yes. I find personally that everyone is placing the responsibility on their doctors, which is for one unfair to the doctor completely. Your responsibility is your own health, 100%. If you become ill, those who care for you, those who are close to you, are burdened now. Their lives have changed. They have to suddenly shift everything in their life to take care of you, to help you. Is that fair to them? I don't think so. It's important that we take care of our own health. Our emotions are contagious. I can walk into a room and I can piss everyone off in the room. I can walk into a room and I can slowly shift them into happiness if I need to. Our emotions are more contagious than any virus. They trigger us like that. Our behaviors are also extremely contagious. It's our responsibility to understand that our emotions, our behaviors, and the way we breathe, especially, is affecting our health 100%. I have people come to me usually as a last resort because the medical system is free for them. You wouldn't believe the horror stories I hear. Doctors are not trained in bedside manners, and many of them are very rude. Many of them don't believe that what's going on with the individual, and those people at that time in their life need compassion, not sympathy. Sympathy helps two people die, but compassion allows... See, when I'm in sympathy with someone, I'm actually allowing them to become dependent on me. If I'm a doctor, they become dependent on me. Where's their power? Where's their self-empowerment? It's gone. And you can't heal without self-empowerment. Shift them into compassion. Teach them. Guide them. Help them help themselves. They become self-empowered. I've seen Qigong teachers, yoga teachers, gurus, light workers, masters, Reiki masters, the whole board become so arrogant, put themselves on a pedestal where they try to either control, saying, no, you can't do any other system but mine. I am your teacher, you are my disciple. You know, things like this. It's not right. The person has to learn to be empowered for themselves. And we're facilitators. I've had students try to call me Master David, and no, please don't call me that. I don't believe in the term. And they'll say, well, what do I call you? Call me David. And then they go, well, what if I want to give you a title? Well, I mean, in Chinese they say Sifu, right, which means teacher, and that's fine. I like to play with the words, I just blanked out there, sorry, Sherpa.
Okay.
And everybody went, well, what's a Sherpa? Well, the Sherpa basically helps you carry your baggage up the mountain. So that's what I'm doing. I'm helping them carry that baggage to the summit. The summit is where they become clear of mind. The summit is where they've reached that part of the journey now where they're going to learn the path for themselves. And they'll be able to manage, by that point, let's say someone in a Western civilization, I want to climb Everest, so they go there, they bring half their stuff with them. The poor Sherpa and their oxen, so they have to carry all that up there, you know? You get a seasoned hiker up there, and all they got is a knapsack. So you get what I'm saying. It's a metaphor, but you get what I'm saying, right? And people need to know what's trivial and what's not. The drama that they create in their life is creating so much poison in their body. The emotions that they run away with because of that drama poisons their body so much. They store it in there. It becomes blockages. I have situations where I'm working on someone, and I know that maybe like many massage therapists, like especially deep tissue, they'll just get in there and enforce their will upon that person. But you can't do that. The will has to be connected between the two of them. First, their will. Their trust. You could trust me 100%. You could lay down on that table. I could find an area that is completely blocked. And just because you trust me doesn't mean that that muscle group trusts me. It's been defending that area for a long time. It's not going to just give up its defenses for me. It doesn't know me. It doesn't acknowledge me in that way. So I have to build its trust. Every cell in our body is conscious. Every muscle group in our body is conscious. Every layer in our body is conscious. And portrays slightly its own personality that is an accumulation of our personality. And so I have to get that area to trust me before I can go in and get deep. And in many ways, I might have to train that person to breathe properly so that they can do the deep internal healing and meet me halfway. In fact, the ultimate form of deep tissue repair should actually come from the individual in the way that they breathe, from the inside out, rather than from the outside in, from an external person trying to do it. But if we were to do it together, the healing is that much more profound, that much more successful. But, and here's where I wanted to get into before, I do not believe in the term healer. I don't believe that I'm a healer. I don't believe that anyone is a healer. That might affect someone's ego to hear that. I know that. I'm going to knock you off your pedestal here. Because, let's take Christ for instance. Did Christ actually heal people, or was he creating a Band-Aid? Because, if anything, and if you believe in Christ, you would know that he was more of a teacher than anything else. He really wanted, and same with Buddha, they wanted to make sure that people were educated, that they knew the things that were harmful to them, that what they were doing to them were harmful to themselves and to those around them. Ethics is a major part of our healing. But so is the way we work with our energy. A lot of that was taken out of scriptures. It needs to be brought back.